Hey everyone, welcome back to Miles Beyond the Page. I'm your host, Michelle Miles, and this is the show where we dive deep into the world of publishing and writing. Each week, I sit down with authors from every stage of their journey, whether they're just starting out, building their readership, or seasoned pros with stories to tell. Today, I'm excited to host Jami Gray. Hi, Jami.
Hi, so lovely to see you.
Thanks. It's so great to have you here. Jami Gray combines magical intrigue with fearless romance and the occasional dead body in her multiple series that range from the urban fantasy worlds of the Arcane Transporter to the Kin Chronicle to the psychic romantic suspense of the. Now, is this, how do you say this?
Cipher,
What's that?
cipher. So like cipher.
Cypher.
Yeah.
Gotcha. The romantic suspense of the PSY-IV Teams, or the love at World's End in her post-apocalyptic series, Fate's Vultures. That's not a mouthful to say.
Tell me about it. When I was doing the series names, I really should have considered that a little more carefully.
Yeah. It's hard to say post-apocalyptic anyways.
Add in romantic suspense, and I swear that gets to be a very big mouthful.
Yeah, it really is. I love that you're doing this sort of these mashup genres too, with urban fantasy and psych elements and romantic suspense. But today we want to talk about your book Grave Cargo. So can you tell us a little bit about that and the series?
Sure. So Grave Cargo is actually the fourth series. So it's the one that I've taken everything that I've learned through my writing career and put into. So all of those rules I tried to break and learned the reasons you don't break those. I put into Grave Cargo. But basically, Grave Cargo is a cross between the transporter movies that you see on TV or in movies and a magical mob family world.
Oh, wow.
So it's still doing my mashups. I tend to do a lot of different elements in my writing because that's what intrigues me and I have fun with. So it's set in Phoenix, Arizona. It is a series. The first 6 books that are out right now are focused on Rory Costa and Zev Aslov, and they are the 2 main characters. So it follows them through that. I am currently working after taking a year off. I am working on a spinoff called Arcane Wonderland, which is based on 3 separate characters, secondary characters that own a bar called Wonderland. And so it's an oracle, a necromancer, and we're still trying to determine who Des is. But it'll all tie in back into the main arc of the Arcane Transporter when I'm ready to go back to Zev and Rory.
Wow, this sounds amazing. So I cannot wait to get my hands on that. This is really awesome. So it's really exciting to talk to you because I've known you for a long time. We've been Facebook friends for a long time. So let's talk about your writing journey now a little bit. What really inspired you to start writing and what fuels that genre that you like, those mashups that you like so much?
Oh, okay. Not to kiss up, but huge Star Wars fan. Okay. So when I went and saw Star Wars at the drive-in theater, I'm going to age myself a little bit here. I have to tell you that when I went home, I was pretty young, but when I went home, my whole thing, I was so excited about this story and this movie and everything that it brought to the screen that I was like, I want a better character than Leia for Han Solo. And so I would create my own character within that movie plot. And that has always been how I think creatively. I am a huge reader and I love reading. And so I would always go, okay, I want to be part of this story. How can I be part of the story? And then I would create a character that would fit within that world. So mental fan fiction, I guess, was the creative start. But I wrote all throughout my teenage years, early years of college, and I was trying to figure out what the heck I wanted to be when I grew up. I actually hand wrote and used an electric typewriter all throughout high school. And I have like a 260-page young adult paranormal weird mixed story that will never see the light of day. I had a writer's retreat years and years later, and we made a game of picking out how many times I mentioned eyes, like EYES. It was funny, but I stopped. I would write and I would journal as I became a young mother. I would do some snippet writing and some
Mhm.
nonfiction writing, but I didn't get back into writing until my boys were about 5 or 6. And so that put me in my early 30s. And my husband pushed me out the door and said, "You need to go join this mother's rights group." And I said, "Okay, fine." He goes, "You need a creative outlet. You're burning out." My boys were 18 months apart. I had a full time job. It was crazy. And I joined this Mother's Right group, and they did nonfiction. And so that kind of restarted writing for me again. And I had a nonfiction piece published with NPR about my family history because it's a soap opera. And then I got back into creative writing and I got into a speculative writing group that we would meet every other week. And I started writing. And Shadow's Edge, which is the first book in my King Chronicles, I rewrote that book, I want to say 3 times because I was trying to figure out point of view. Because I went from third to first, back to close third.
Oh, balls.
So I had to figure this out. So it took me a couple of years to write this book. And as all first books are, it meanders and it has its
Yeah.
moments and you have to clean it up. And then I tried shopping it around to traditional publishers. And I have the required writer profile of rejection letters that go from there's not enough sex in the book to there's too much violence in the book to there's
Mhm.
this is too dark or this doesn't follow this or I like this but I don't like this or we have too many of this.
Mhm.
And then eventually I did get accepted by a small publisher. I don't think they're in around anymore because 2010, 2011, that's when everything blew up. And so I published the Kin. I started the Kin series with them and kept it with them. I then kept writing and my writing process, I'm a type A personality, so I get very good about schedules and word counts. Once I'm like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So instead of escaping to coffee shops, now it became I need to dedicate time to this to make sure that I hit these goals and hit these deadlines and get things to the publisher when it's required.
Mhm.
So I started getting to a point where I could write about 2 full-length novels a year. And I stayed on that schedule up until 2023. And I took 2024 off because we were moving houses. I had to deal with some health stuff. You know how it goes. The
Yeah.
whole world
Yeah.
implodes. Yeah. All that fun stuff. So now this year, I'm like, okay, now that I'm indie, because I had it with 2 small publishers and then with HarperCollins, I had the post-apocalyptic series with HarperCollins.
Okay.
I got my rights back in 2018. I had a period of time where I had gotten laid off of a job that I'd been with for about 18 years. So I was looking for a day job for a good solid chunk of time. And so during that good solid chunk of time, I decided I need to really learn about the writing business
Yeah.
because I wanted more control of my stuff. I went all in and I got my rights back on the Kin and the PSY-IV Teams series. And I redid the covers, redid the edits, which, mind you, going back and re-editing your stuff, I would not advise to anybody because it can go down a very dark rabbit hole. Made the writing better. I will agree, it did make the writing better, which helped. So I republished, recovered, republished as an indie author. And I did it solely to KU, to Kindle Unlimited with Amazon, because I wanted to learn one platform first. So that was in 2018. I did that. I left everything in there for a good couple solid years while I got the rights back to the post-apocalyptic series and redid that. And then I started working on the Arcane Transporter. And then about 2020, 2021, I was making pretty decent royalties. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I'm going to pull out a KU and go wide. Expanded, went wide so that I could go to all the retailers because I really didn't like being restricted to Kindle Unlimited because I couldn't
Yeah.
go out to the libraries. I couldn't, my global reach wasn't quite as far and things
Right.
like that. So I taught myself Barnes and Noble, Draft to Digital, Kobo, BNN, all the fun things, and went wide. And I like wide better because of the series writer and a slow writer. I can do 2 books a year right now with a full-time job. That's it if I
Yeah.
want to keep my sanity. Okay. Um, It gives me a longer pre-order tail, and I
Yeah.
can set my pre-order up 6 months in advance. I'm not feeling the rush that I have to publish every X amount of months to keep above whatever magical number it is, their algorithm that you have to do. And because I'm a series, once I hook a reader, I'm hoping that they like it enough to keep going,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they'll be there when I'm ready. Hopefully, please. Um, so yeah, so I went wide. So and I enjoy being wide. I like it, especially since I can see that lovely light at the end of the tunnel that tells me my day job may end within the next 4 years or so. That
Yeah.
I can full time and go from writing 2 books to hopefully 4 books. I've got a plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the journey. So I did the whole thing. So if anyone tells you to start writing and you have to do it when you're young, tell them to take a leap because you can start at any point in time and go.
You really can. And there's so many options now, especially with the indie publishing. And I love what you said about it. First of all, let me go back to mental fan fiction because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as you can see. And there was just something magical about that first Star Wars movie that just ignited that passion for you want to be able to do something great like that. And so my best friend in high school and I, we used to write our own comics with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. It was really funny. Frankly, I don't have any more of those anymore.
And they're fun to look at, and it's entertaining to go back, but it's becoming, I think the real draw of that movie for, I don't know, and maybe it's not the same for me. I was able to become the star of my own story,
Yeah.
and it was an adventure. You got to understand. When I say my history reads like a telenovela, I am not kidding. My bio mom died when I was 6. She and my bio dad got divorced when I was 5. I went to live with my bio dad and his second wife until I was 12, and then I went into foster care at 12, and then I got adopted at 14. Any trope that you could think of for putting your character through something, yeah, I've hit it, been there, done that. And I use a lot of that. I've realized as I've gotten older that how that impacted my creative life was my stories are very character driven, very
Mhm.
character driven. And my partners say I'm the queen of subplots because no matter how simple I try and keep it, there's multiple subplots. There's emotion because nobody is one or two dimensional. We're very three-dimensional and with all these hidden nooks and crannies and things that drive us all insane. I want readers to be able to find that connection with my characters and put themselves in that character's role and
Yeah.
do what I used to do as a kid and make themselves the star of that story.
Yeah, and I think those movies and of course, Raiders of the Lost Ark is hands down my favorite movie of all time. These movies, though, really made me want to write action adventure. Now,
Yeah.
that's where all my books are all that way. They all have some sort of action adventure type story. And I think that's what is so great about letting us fuel our own imaginations. And I love that we can have that indie option now, and we have that. I'm a control freak, so I want to control the whole thing from start to finish.
Oh yeah, I want to be able to say when it goes. I want to be able to
Yeah.
change things, change prices, do what I want, put it where I want.
And so, were you at Samhain by any chance?
I was not. I was
Not,
not.
no.
I did apply to them, but yeah, no, I was at Black Opal and Music Up Publishing, and then I
Oh, okay.
was as Escape, which is a digital imprint of HarperCollins out in Australia. And
Okay.
yeah, I'm with you on the action adventure. I don't think any of my books. I had talked to someone who was not really familiar with the various fiction genres, and they said, "What do you write?" It's urban fantasy, and they're like, "What is urban fantasy?" And I finally realized how to define it. You know what it is, Michelle? And you will know this. We write magical murder mysteries. Every single urban fantasy starts with a dead body somewhere. All of my books start with a dead body. Period. But we write magical murder mysteries, and that's how we get the action, the adventure, and then we throw in some romance. Like, we get it all in there because that's what's fun.
I'm laughing because it's so funny. I did not realize I did that in my urban fantasy series. Like, it does start in the first chapter with a dead person, and all of those books are a quest. And so, the Indiana Jones thing is I was really channeling that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I spent years going, yes, an urban fantasy and a paranormal writer. This is what I do. But it took until about 2 years ago, it finally clicked for me. Oh my gosh, I write magical murder mysteries. I really do. And I didn't realize at the time that's what I was doing because I like the fact that, like you said, there's a quest. You have to go through some serious stuff to get places, right? And it's going to really test who you are and how you handle things. And even with the post apocalyptic that has no paranormal aspects to it, it's all just the fact that's the end of the world. I still have all of those things. They're still in this.
I don't think all these about as those type of writers, though, it's really hard to get away from that. Who we are as a writer. But I love this. It's so much fun. But I don't want to run out of time. So I'm gonna miss along here too. What does a typical routine look like for you? And now you said you had a day job. So what does that look like for you?
So I work at a local university, so it's a typical 8 to 5. So I will write, or my goal is to try and write every day. I have a word count. I try and hit it. I've had to find some grace with myself for when I failed to hit those word counts. And as an indie author, I have a little more flexibility. And I took some of the pressure when this year, I made the decision, okay, I've told my readers on my blog, I'm spending all of 2025 writing 2 of these 3 books to get ahead of the publishing curve. They will be out in 2026. I'm sorry for the delay. I'm sorry it's going to take so long, but I need to be ahead of the curve. I need to be writing ahead of my publishing schedule for my own sanity because I found it put a lot of pressure on me. And so I write every day. I try and stick to a word count. I try and give myself 2 days off because I need just some downtime. It's yeah, but I do. I use Scrivener, love Scrivener, so I can use that to call it out. But yeah, I can only work on one book at a time. I wish I could do. I listened to your interview with Elizabeth Rourke, and she's saying I can do this, and I'm like, I wish I could do that.
No, I just can't. My brain doesn't work that way either. And then you write ones, and I kept getting them confused. So I was like, okay, now.
Exactly.
So you mentioned Scrivener, and one of my questions was, what other tools do you use to help you? Do you plot? Are you a pantser? How do you go about that?
Okay, so I used to say I was a pantser, and then I realized I was lying through my teeth. I actually am a very general plotter. I have road signs. I know that this has got to happen, this has got to happen, and this has got to happen. And then I got to figure out how to get to those points. So I'm cross between the two. And I will find that if I have missed something when I am plotting the story, if there's something, some point in the arc that I have not hit correctly, I have to stop and I have to go back and I have to replot. I am not a nice, neat writer. I will write in order, but I self-edit as I go. So there'll be a lot of cuts in between and things that'll have to move around. And then I'm like, okay, that's got to happen over here. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I wish there was a neater answer, but there's not.
The same way. I write the blurb first and like, this is what I think is going to happen. And then I sit down and start writing and it doesn't happen. Sound
Yeah,
familiar
I
with the
wish
blurb? Yeah.
yeah, I wish I could say I do that. No, the blurb is like mine. It's a major, we go to battle when we sit down to do the blurb. I'm like, dude, I write 300-page books and you want me to do 250 words about what my 300-page book is about. I will do general outline. This is the backstory. A lot of what I pre-plot or pre-write is backstory because I need to understand what's making my characters move and do and take the steps that they're taking. And why is this so important in this particular journey? So my blurb is always my last one. So when I sit down to do my blurb, I write the blurb, then I write the tagline, and then the mini tagline, and then the mini tagline.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Worst part, man.
You put, you take this 100,000 word novel and you have to boil it down to the high level.
I know you lose so much. Yeah.
But this is such a great part.
You know, you need to know this. You do.
So when you started your indie travels, I was going to say your indie journey, thing that you found was a surprise or a challenge when you decided to go full on indie?
Was the realization, even though I logically knew that being a writer was a business, it was the reality that writing is a business. So when I had younger writers come up to me and go, okay, so just tell me one thing, just one thing. I'm like, okay, well, if you are planning to do this yourself as a career, may I suggest you get a professional degree in marketing or business because you're going to need one or the other or both. My bachelor's is in journalism and with multiple minors because making up my mind was not fun. So it was like theater, history, and photography. And my master's is actually in organizational management. So it's completely different. So I have a bachelor's totally in arts and a master's that's completely in business. And that master's helped save me when I went indie because I understood a business plan. I understood not that I'm good at marketing, but that I needed marketing and how to do it and what the key concepts were. To this day, still trying to figure out marketing.
Yeah.
Aren't we all? Yeah. No, I know. We're all trying to find the next thing. I've gotten lucky, myself and some other writers here in Arizona, they get together in the East Valley, and we just started getting together this year, and it's a newer group, and it's not so much about the writing as it is about the business, and it's a lot of younger writers, meaning they're 10, 15 years younger than me. So they've got a better grasp on the emerging markets. I'm learning a lot from them. And I think as a writer, you and I who have been around, we've seen some stuff and been through some stuff. We have to be open to listen to the ones coming up behind us to go, hey, you need to think about this or you need to think about that because they're thinking about things I don't even think about.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot from them. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's great advice. Do you think that a new writer just starting out, do you think they should be thinking about a business plan upfront, if especially if they're gonna go full on indie? Like, you can now the world is open. We're doing direct
Yeah.
sales, we're doing all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. I think a new writer, if they want to make this a career, yes, they need to think about a business plan, but they need to be smart about it. You cannot do everything from the get go.
Yeah.
So set your base, learn your distributor channels, learn your genre. That I think is huge. Learn your genre, learn your audience, because that's going to be what sustains you long term. So if you don't have a firm grasp on what you write and who you write for, I think it's easy to get lost and get told or get misdirected in the wrong way as you
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know your tropes too. Know your tropes, know your genre. I think that was so hard for me too at first because I was like, I just want to write fantasy. What does that mean?
You called my stuff a mashup, and I always found it really interesting. I was always trying to buck the trend. I was like, okay, like my writing group would go, oh, this. You look at the Ken, one of the frustrating things about my first series for me was the first two books focus on the main character, Rain and Gavin. First two books. Then the third book goes to a secondary character, and then it's a different
Yeah.
character couple for each one. Truthfully, if I was being honest, the Ken is a mix of urban fantasy and paranormal romance. It really is. But I was figuring things out. What rules do you break? Why do you break them? And is it really important to break them? Or should you really just do what you're supposed to be doing? And I had to learn that through each of my series before I just finally said, okay, I can't be a really good author of all the genres I like. Like you said, I'm a big reader, so I've read everything from UF to romance, all the versions of romance and science fiction and mystery and high fantasy and all of it. And so I had to narrow in, okay, what do I really love? And for me, it really is urban fantasy with romantic elements. I really love that. But saying that, I am not ruling out that there might not come a point where I decide to do a pure romance, maybe a small town romance or do something like this, because it's about found family, which
Yeah.
is huge in my books. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fun, but you do need to know those genres. You do
Yeah.
need to know those tropes.
Yeah. I think Sound Family is really popular right now too.
Yeah.
But what strategies, so we're going to talk a little bit about marketing now. What
Okay.
strategies have you found to be most effective for finding and reaching new readers? That's a
Um,
tough question.
I know. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure how effective it is, but for me, I have utilized free first in series.
Yeah.
So each of my four series, because my books have been out for a bit now. So Grave Cargo, Shadow's Edge, Haunted by the Past, and Lying in Runes, they're all free at all distributors. And I do that deliberately. It was a hard decision for me because I put a lot of work in these books. Like any artist will tell you, it's always hard to do a lost leader, but it is important because I do want my readers to feel like they can get a chance to know me. deciding which entry point they want to come in at. If they know me, they're going to be willing to go ahead and pick up the rest of the books. Think that way only because that's how I do it. As a reader, I find an author, I will binge read everything.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, speaking of, like I said, when I was watching your podcast, I love your podcast, but I was watching, and Elizabeth O'Rourke, when she did her interview, I was so intrigued by the Grumpy Devil, like the way she came about that. Went out and bought the book. I have now read all of her stuff.
That's awesome.
But as a reader, I'm thrilled. Like I will lurk in reader groups so that I can get suggestions of, oh, you need to check this out and check that out. But yeah, for marketing, I do free first of series. I do paid newsletters, and I do have a monthly newsletter. I don't do paid Amazon ads anymore. I did them a lot when I was in KU. I think it pays off definitely there. I'm sure I need to expand to Facebook ads, but they scare me.
They are a little, yeah.
They're
You know what?
intimidating.
They are, but once you figure it out, I've been running some Facebook ads myself, and yeah, I find them to be the most effective for me. So we're getting close to our time, which is sad, but I'm having this great conversation.
I know.
So I'm going to ask you two more questions, or maybe three. Tell us how important you think it is for authors to be on social media today.
I think it's very important. I think that's the only way you're going to connect with some of your younger audiences. And you just have to pick and choose your channels, your social media channels wisely, based upon your reader audience. Yeah.
I think that's important too. And finding those people that can connect with you through those channels. And so what's one piece of advice which you wish you'd known earlier in your writing journey?
Learn social media. I'm an introvert by nature. I know you can't tell, but I really am. But I know you, so it's okay. So putting myself out there on social media is difficult for me, and trying to figure out what works. And I would love to be able to say I have a personal assistant that could do this for me that knows much more than I do, but I am handling everything myself. Yeah, I think learning social media on how to be yourself and authentically connect with your readers is huge. I think that's huge. I don't know how you do it. So I tend to do it a lot in my newsletter. I'm old school.
I really think the newsletter is the best way to talk to your readers anyways. And you own that list. So you get to talk to them whenever you want.
I can give them anything I want, and that's fine.
And then finally, tell us where we can find you. You've told us a little bit. Tell us where we can find you and your books online.
Okay, I am everywhere. So I'm at Amazon. I am at Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Draft to Digital, any of their outliers, Apple Books. I'm also at my website at www.jamigray.com, which again, my goal next year is to do a direct storefront. I've got to redo my website and all that fun jazz, but I'm just not ready to do it this year. So yeah, I have planned, but I just can't do them this year. Yes. But I am everywhere you can find me. Yeah, Google Play, all of it.
Great. And all of those links will be in the description of the podcast so people can connect with you online, sign up for your newsletter, buy your books, and all of that.
All the fun stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Jami. I really appreciate you joining me today. It was
stashing with your abundance.
Ooh. It's been an adventure. Let me tell you, I had not intended for it to be explosive, but it turned out to be. I'm now finishing up season 1. So anyway, so thank you so much to Jami Gray for joining us and sharing her incredible journey and insights. Be sure to check out her new book, Grave Cargo, and a huge thank you to all of you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share your favorite part of the conversation, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep writing, keep dreaming, and I'll see you miles beyond the page. Bye.
Thanks for joining me on Miles Beyond the Page. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. If you're an author and want to be a guest, visit michellemiles.net/podcast to apply. Keep writing, keep dreaming, and I'll see you next time.